All right, good evening. I'd like to call this regular school board meeting to order, and the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let the roll reflect that all school board members are present with the exception of Dave Olson. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed per policy. The next item of business is the election of board officers, and go in the order of president, vice president, clerk, and treasurer. And once the president is elected, then the president will take over and run the remainder of the meeting. Just parliamentary procedure, spoke with our legal counsel just to make it clear, I guess, if there's one nomination, don't need a motion or a second, just a nomination. Once nominations are done, then we'll take the votes. The first person that gets the majority will be the president. If there's more than one, the board has an option of doing a secret ballot, so paper votes, if there's more than one. Other than that, it's typically just a voice vote. Any questions on parliamentary procedure?
What if we have a tie? Then we'll re-vote again, or?
Can we call David?
Yeah, and we only run about that with only 6. One option to call David, or we don't successfully elect an officer. Okay. All right, so again, at this time, I'll open up the floor for nominations for president.
I nominate Erica.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need like a second or?
No. Any other nominations for president?
I nominate Brian.
Any other nominations? All right, we'll take, I guess next you decide if you want to do paper ballot or voice call. It's up to the board. It's your decision. You can also do hand, just show of hands.
Do that. Works for me. Anybody want a secret vote? That'll be pretty easy to figure out. Okay.
So I'm not hearing secret vote, I'm hearing show of hands.
Yep.
All right, by show of hands, all those in favor of Erica as president, raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. All those, I guess, the red one. Yeah. All right, okay. So Erica is elected as school board president for a term of 1 year to the next reorganizational meeting. I'm gonna take the seat here and take over the rest of the meeting.
All right, I now open it up for vice president nominations.
I would nominate Josh.
Any other nominations? So
Hearing none, we don't have to vote.
Josh is vice president. All right, we opened up for clerk nominations.
I would nominate Jeff.
Any others? All right, yeah. Here's clerk. Okay, open it up for treasurer. Nominations.
Somebody want to be treasurer? Not much responsibility except
Reading some big
reading
numbers.
minutes. You don't get to go in and sit next to Jen and supervise her
Be lucky that you don't.
bookkeeping.
Vince, you want to?
You want to go to Vince?
I don't know if I can read that big a number.
You can take your shoes off. I'll nominate Vince.
Anybody else? All right.
Okay.
Vince for treasurer. Great. So now we welcome visitors and public comment. John, you signed up?
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Paula Soderberg, wife of St. Croix Central Principal Kurt Soderberg. On behalf of Kurt and his entire staff, I'm here to present the Herb Cole Leadership Principal Scholarship for the $6,000 check and the award. In case you are not familiar with this award and the criteria, the Herb Cole Principal Leadership Award recipients are nominated by their peers, evaluated based on merit, and then selected by a panel. They are school principals who are recognized for setting high standards for instruction, achievement, character, and creating a climate to best serve students, families, staff, and community. Yes, this is the same man that was told he's not a good fit for St. Croix Central. In closing, before I present the check and the certificate, I would ask that each one of you, when you go home tonight, that you look yourselves in the mirror and ask yourselves, are you doing what's best for St. Croix Central and the students? Because based on the outpouring of support from the faculty, staff, parents, students, and this award, Kurt did. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am John Yu. I know many of you. I've encouraged many of you to be members of the Board of Education. I'd just like to take a moment to briefly share a thought. Our vision, which we worked on, and I was part of the board when we recast the mission, said, be a district respected by others as a model of excellence in student achievement. And I just, I'm a little chagrined. And I think that we're missing an opportunity. The Herb Cole Scholarship is, award, the Herb Cole Award is nothing to sneeze at. It's a standard of excellence that Herb Cole established to call out educators. And do not see any statement from the district recognizing this accomplishment within our district is at the least disappointing. We are recognized as an excellent district. And yet there wasn't a word involved with the bulletin. There wasn't anything on the St. Croix Central website. There were parent comments and staff members that took it upon themselves to recognize Kurt and the accomplishment that this is. And assuming positive intent, I can only conclude that in the busyness since January to May, in reorganizing what leadership needed to be at the schools, that having seen other comments, we just assumed it was taken care of, that it was overlooked. But I think that's rather egregious. And I think that, quite frankly, we as a district are better than that you as a board are better than that you as district leadership are better than that. And I would strongly encourage you to find within yourselves a board action that takes the time to recognize the outstanding performance that is required for the Herb Cole excellence, principal excellence, and reach out to Kurt and acknowledge that. Thank you.
Okay, number.
Kelly.
Kelly, no one else. So number 7, highlight on youth, we have Panther Catering leader Courtney Hawkins.
Might have hit F8. F8.
F8?
I think that's the one. To extend it. Is it total?
Oh, good. Good. All right.
Before I start, can I ask if anyone had?
Do we have anybody that wants gluten-free cupcakes? I do for some. So Gray is one of my advanced food students. He's going to hand out the cupcakes while I speak about our student organization, which is Panther Catering. I've wanted to come to the board for a while, but now that my child's a little bit older and
Thank you.
more better behaved. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank
It's easier to come now that he's older versus when he was younger. So I did just want to give an update because we have been operating for 6 years. So I kind of wanted to highlight what we've been doing for Panther Catering, and plus there's several new board members. So I didn't know if you knew a lot about what we do for Panther Catering. So we started Panther Catering with the 4 individuals that you see pictured there. These also were 4 students who brought home the banner that they're holding when we went to the state culinary competition in Madison. It was quite an honor to have one of the judges was a local chef at a special restaurant in the Madison area. Told these 4 students I would put your dish on my menu. As a teacher, I almost fell on my chair, but just picked my jaw up. So beyond proud of these kids, they started our Panther Catering program. As you can see, we only had 4 events that year. It was kind of a test run to see, and we really do this. These also 4 students, they were part of the advanced foods class, but they ran Panther Catering through an independent study. Today now, Panther Catering is part of the advanced foods course. So our curriculum kind of intertwines with whatever events happen to show up. So why did we start Panther Catering? First and foremost, for me within my classroom, I'm all about providing a hands-on learning experience for my students. I feel it really puts them into the actual environment, especially for the culinary industry. Not all students that leave my classroom are going to go into the culinary industry, but they have a different level of respect for it, even though they're not going into that career field. They also have an understanding for that industry. So I even had one student this year who, after they served at their catered event, goes, Ms. Hawkins, I have a whole new appreciation for wait staff after doing our catering. So I like to provide that opportunity for students. I do have, well, the 4 that started, 2 of them are going into the culinary industry, and I currently have 1 student that's going into the culinary industry. So we're growing. Once the referendum build, I think that we will continue to grow. So the second reason we started it was to help fundraise for equipment needs in the classroom. This is mostly for replacement equipment needs. We have all currently home style kitchens in my classroom. So if you use your oven at home as often as mine are used, which is about 6 hours a day, your oven is going to fall apart quickly. So we utilize the extra funds or our profits to help support whatever needs we have within the classroom for extra equipment that exceeds what I get in my budget. And then lastly was to provide service for the community while providing a student-run enterprise for our students. Again, giving that real-world hands-on learning opportunity for our students. So here are some pictures of our students through the last 6 years at various events. Normally our banquets, I guess I'll say, are served in the high school commons. The picture on the right, we actually all rented a couple of the vans that we borrowed and hauled kids over to the middle school where we served them lunch. So we delivered it, said, yay, here's your lunch, and then we took off. So we were able to do that within our 45-minute class period, but it was also something that was memorable for those kids. So this is this year's event. Actually, one of the students I was talking about earlier who had the appreciation for wait staff is in this picture. So
The kids do have uniforms that they're required to wear. For an event, they have to practice all the safety and sanitation standards that they learn through their Serve Safe training. Hopefully in the future, we will get them completely certified through Serve Safe, where they can have a Serve Safe manager certification. So we don't do it currently. I do a modified version just because we have, especially this semester, have so many catered events that we don't have time. Plus they have to take 2 hours to take the test. So it would take honestly right now about 10 weeks of the curriculum to fully train the kids. So I do train our wait staff, or not our wait staff, our food service staff with Serve Safe. So not only am I a Serve Safe manager, but I'm also a Serve Safe instructor and proctor. So hopefully in the future, kids will completely get the full certification. I just give them a modified version to cover the standards that they will see in the classroom, because they don't take on the deliveries, they don't go get the supplies, those types of things. So that's why they get a modified version. Hopefully in the future, as I talk about future goals, that will happen. So, and then these are our other, this is our COVID team. So they missed out on a lot of catering because we shut down early because of COVID. So I wanted to highlight them for this presentation as well, because they did do some stuff before we all had to go home. So this is kind of just to show you the growth of Panther Catering. Year 6, we're still growing because I am still booking events. Year 5, you'll see was our biggest decline. That was because that's when we came back post-COVID. I did not do a lot of catering events with the kids. If anybody booked anything, it was just me doing it because less hands, less COVID risk. So we continue to grow every year. If you want the numbers, year 1 was 4, year 2 was 17, year 3 was 24, year 4 was 35, year 5 was 10, and year 6 is currently 36. Like I said, and that goes July to July, as I go based on the school fiscal year. So we do have people that will book a year in advance. I had 3 brides contact me actually last August, and we're like, I need to get on your calendar. So any event that's booked after school until school starts, I am doing on my own because we don't have a summer school class currently. So I usually will do most of the weddings and the grad parties for people, and it's all based on their need. So which ties into this one. These are some of the things that we have catered. It really is anybody who contacts me. I have that issue of saying no. So I always am like, yes, because no matter what, any catered event's going to benefit my students in the classroom. So that's kind of where my passion comes from it. But we've had random requests. Like I had one person contact me. They didn't want to do their Christmas cookies one year. So we did their Christmas cookies for them. So it just depends. I have a great partnership with the Baldwin EMS. They have quarterly trainings. We cater their meals for them. So because they come and they will do CPR training for my students. So we have that great partnership, and I hope we can continue to build more partnerships within not only our own community, but the Baldwin area as well. So that's what we cater. Like I said, profits go towards back to the students in the classroom. So we purchase more uniforms, we get the equipment that we need. And then we also provide experiences because we do push, well, I shouldn't say push. Not a lot of kids get into my courses because I'm only one. I'm still working on cloning myself, but we want to provide some experiences for students who don't get into advanced foods necessarily. So in the high school, we have the break before break where we kind of have that afternoon of fun activities for kids. Chop competition is a big thing where they come and compete against the teacher team. And then 8th grade transition day, I like to make treats for the 8th graders. This one doesn't like food. Plus it makes my room smell good. So I use the funds to do activities like that. Or CTE day, when we do anything with the kids, I also use those funds for that as well. Future goals. Of course, we want to continue to provide opportunities for not only the community, but we want to provide those opportunities for students. My big dream is to have the bakery, coffee shop, cafe, where we would work with Ms. Hanson's IDF students. They would bring on the coffee end of it. I don't drink coffee. I know nothing about coffee. But then my baking and pastry arts students would bring on the baked items, the pastries for the morning. And then we would have the advanced foods provide a meal to the staff to feed the students in the afternoon. My vision is that each week a student would have their menu up for staff to purchase or community to come and potentially drive through or do pickup orders. I'm not sure yet. And then the last portion, which is to bring back our competition. The first bullet's my bigger dream is to have a middle border conference culinary competition. I have spoken to other teachers and chefs who are willing to do it. So we want to be awesome in the middle border conference, not only in athletics, but in the culinary world as well. So, also through our student organizations of SCCLA Start events, I want to turn into a Pro Start classroom, which is a very higher level of competitions where they can actually meet chefs that show up to their competitions. I believe they're held in Appleton and Milwaukee area, and then possibly doing Skills USA, which is another technical competition for student organizations. So, any questions?
I love it all. That's fabulous.
Or is there any other
So like if they wanna, so do you have like your contact? So if we wanna order cupcakes or whatever, is that like glaring on your page or how?
It is on the school website, and it's
Okay.
also shown on the scoreboard at basketball games. I do know that, so my son points it out every single time.
So like how much more can you take on? Like if we really
I don't
market,
say no.
I know. So like if we market you, like how much
Mhm.
can you really?
Well, this week we're doing 4 catered events.
Okay.
This year we did a service for 1,100. I probably might have to say no to that in future, but we did it. So it was hard to turn it down. So it was a great opportunity for the kids and it was a good profit for us. So, and it was a great experience for the kids to see from the beginning to the end, how it all went together. So, yeah, I don't say no.
And you said a couple went on after school?
Yes,
So where
yep.
did they go on
Anything-
after that?
I know one student, well, he went into nursing and then he was gonna get a CNA. I just contacted him a couple months ago. And he is currently a cook at Lolo in Hudson, but he's going into the culinary field. And his big regret, he said, was I should have done that right away. And I said, yes, you should. He's the only student in my classroom that's ever made a cake without measuring. And that's why I told him that day, I said, you need to go into the culinary field.
Cool.
So,
Very
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and the other one, his brother is even a chef, and so he's just following in the family footsteps of that.
Very cool.
I have lots of restaurants to go to, and I love the restaurants.
So I just have a comment. I brag about your ears must be ringing because I often use the kind of what makes St. Croix Central special is educators who care about kids and help find their superpowers. And I use that 2017 group. I mean, they came to the board.
Yep.
I mean, 3 of these kids, I've used 3 out of 4. So if you recognize them, you don't know which of the 3, but 3 of them's family had talked to the principal about maybe they weren't going to finish school. And Courtney captured their attention. And I mean, these kids were state champions. I think 3 of them were planning to go into the military when they stood in front of the board. And it was really cool. It's like the kid that did the
Really.
bus, the bus
Oh, yeah.
race, and now he didn't like talking in front of people, and he just was so articulate. And these kids were just really articulate and proud of what they had done.
Oh, yes.
And it really is about educators that care about kids and help find their superpower, and you really have done that. And
Yeah.
I really
That's the
appreciate
joy
that.
of my classroom too, with
Yeah.
working with kids with food is you can find those kids that they have that niche and sometimes cooking in the kitchen is just a huge stress reliever for people. I mean,
Well, I'm
it
hoping
is for
we'll
me.
have a little
That's why I feed people.
bigger facility so you can take on more kids.
Yep, yeah.
I think.
I'm super excited for what's to come in the next few
Yeah.
years. So we're gonna keep on team rolling.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you for the cupcake.
Oh, we need more.
Thanks, Greg.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Colin.
Yep,
Are you
thank
still
you.
here? Yeah.
Oh, he ran out. All right, number 8, comments by board members and superintendent, general updates and questions. Anything? All right, then we'll move on to teacher meet and confer. So, let's see, Jeff and I were there.
Yeah. The 2 teachers show up. I
Mhm.
mean, they got a nice, average 16%, 15.6 or whatever, close to 16% raise across the board.
I think they just came to be representative of their building, and Jen gave a nice spiel. And
it wasn't information that they
Yeah.
haven't already heard, that like the day after the referendum, they all got individual packages of what the new salary component would mean to them personally. So there wasn't anything at the meet and greet that with new information.
Yeah, the day after the referendum passed, we sent out an individualized statement to every staff member. So they knew exactly what they would
And
do.
if you remember, there's kind of steps at different years, so not everybody got the same amount. With just 2 people got 2% because they were already kind of ahead of their schedule. They're just a handful. But then they're like a year away from the next step up and they'll get a bigger raise next year.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like 3 or 4.
So it's a different year, right? It was all referendum approved plans, so it wasn't what she.
I've been working on it for a long time. Surprised to do it.
Okay, how about, support staff meeting confirmed, Vincent and Dave were there.
Yeah. We had 2 groups come in. One group just had some questions about kind of his job classification or where he fell with other districts that have the same title. Felt that
We're still streaming, just can't see it.
felt like he had some extra duties, and Jen was gonna look into if that was the exact fact or what the 11 districts that we did comparables to, because he fell in the group that just got the 2% raise, so he's already at the top of the scale for that position. And another group came in and they really didn't have anything besides thanking us, I guess, so. Were you able to look into the one deal?
I didn't.
Okay.
I mean, I ran the comps before and that was, how we came to the 2% for that individual. I think he felt like he should be benchmarked to a certain school district because that's the district that his job most closely aligns with, which was more than what he's currently getting paid, so.
Rather than the average of the
Right,
districts. Yeah.
right. So we can talk about that a little bit more during closed session.
Number 9, scheduled presentations by guests and staff members.
None.
Okay. Financial reports. Vince, you want to read it?
Yeah,
Just this old treasurer's report? on
Yeah,
their
that's it.
packet, or
yeah.
You want to read it?
are
He
they,
has it.
is it accurate or not?
Well, I will determine the opposite this.
As of 3.
Fund 10, general fund, $1,527,958.55. Fund 21, gift and donations, $466,359.39. Fund 27, special ed. Why is that in the red? So, negative
Yeah.
$1,705,789.91.
So at the end of the fiscal year, we always have to make a transfer from Fund 10 to cover that overage, but that doesn't happen until June 30th.
Okay. I get the one with the red number.
Well, I think that
It's always been there.
usually would read just the bottom
Bank account.
portion with the
Yeah.
bank account balances.
Oh, that's all I
but
have to
you
do?
can- you
Well, I
can
don't
do
want to
whatever you
read,
want.
I don't want to read the whole page, so I just have to do that was the bank account balance? Or-
Yeah, down below.
So
where
the
it
bottom,
says-
okay, so.
Yeah,
So total balance of $1,922,439.39. Is that the one you want me to read?
So bank account balances as of
See, it takes
4/30.
training here.
That's all right. So bank account balances as of 4/30/2022. And then I would just read that list and go through that. Just those.
Assistant state bank.
where it says
checking.
citizen,
Yeah.
Oh,
citizens.
is there another page here then? or- Oh, okay, citizen state, okay, sorry. There we go. See, you guys come in this one. Citizen state bank checking, $116,445.72. Citizen state bank MM is $1,788,930.10. Fund 46, $53.09. Suicide prevention, $16,659.90. American Deposit Management Debt Service, $350.58. Local Government Investment Pool, 0, for a total of $1,922,439.39. Yeah.
The motion.
Move to approve. As read.
Second.
So we're good.
For the financial reports.
Good, take a vote.
Oh, to approve it. Motion to approve the financial.
Okay, motion to approve the financial reports.
And that's already been moved and seconded. You need to call for a vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 11, consideration of consent agenda. That was over.
We get the numbers for students enrollment, full-time, part-time.
Clear this one.
Just read the numbers.
No,
and
that's
posted on
the-
that binder. 2 part-time, 1
Okay.
total of 3.
All right, 2 part-time, 1 full-time, and a total of 3.
Move approval of the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Let's give it a list. Hold the motion by
Oh, there's-
Jeff, second by, especially when 2
Okay.
people say at the same time, so that.
Gotcha.
you see those just spin minutes.
Okay, so first, by Jeff, second. Dave, okay.
Straight up.
Okay, administrative report number 12, student enrollment update.
So the number of students in seats, as of the time of reporting in May, 1,614 students. And again, that's up from the first month of September there, first month of the school year of 1,603. So it's a positive trend. That number is up. It's not typical. Typically declines. There's attrition. As the year goes on, we've had more students move in seats this year, so that's a good sign. Speaking of moving in or open enrollment, all the way down at the bottom, we have 409 open enrolled in. 409 students are open enrolling into our district, 122 out for a net positive of 287. And then the 2 other gray boxes to your right involve our virtual school, 75 virtual full-time resident students in a virtual school, 53 resident students are enrolled in our virtual school part-time. And then down there, you can see in the charter school, which are all open enrolled students, 288 in the virtual school as opposed to 271 at this time last year. So again, all very positive trends for enrollment in our school district.
Tim, when we have a resident part-time virtual, they're going to class part of the day.
That is correct. In person and partially some online.
How is that funded? They fund it as a
Because,
virtual or a,
well, because they're our resident student, they're the $10,000.
cool.
How is this trending compared to the modeling that we had done by that outside group?
Yeah, it's, they were showing a 2% with their, I mean, they had different models, but a
Mhm.
2% slow growth. So
Mhm.
I haven't done the math, but, I guess, yeah. I mean, that was, I believe, using the third Friday count, Chad.
Yeah,
Right.
it would be.
So you can see 1672 to 1677 on our enrollment there. But then you factor in from 1819, 1920. So could run that. We could run that data since the last enrollment projection report.
Like, as we go forward, it'd be nice to know if that modeling is similar or trending in the same direction granted, you're gonna have control lines or whatever, but any the problem is like if you have a big jump or a big decline, that's a percentage off a percentage, right? So it'd just be nice to have an idea of where we're headed.
It also kind of tells us, as we might do modeling for a future referendum or building expansion, has this been valid or yes or no? Or, you know, they tend to do 2 or 3 lines, and which one is the one that seems to we've been following?
So Callie, we'll make a note. Am I hearing future agenda item? You know that, okay.
Number 13, the key work of our school board, Josh.
The recognitions?
Melanie Newman, thank you once again for your efforts in the 4th grade play. Seeing the hard work and excitement in action at the board meeting this year was even better. Your time and passion never goes unnoticed. Emily Beckel? Emily Beckel, congratulations on your first year of supporting the 4th grade play. It was an amazing production because of your hard work. Thank you for your time and commitment to students. Alicia Benzer, thank you once again for your time and commitment to the 4th grade play. Their talents are displayed and appreciated because of all that you do. Leah Tritz, thank you once again for your time and commitment for the 4th grade play. Showing their talents and displayed are appreciated. Thank you for all that you do. Coach Chris Buckle and the golf team, which is Nick Mueller, Owen Roseboom, Ryan Boseneiler, Noah Schmitz, Jack McGrain, and Carson Talladge. Congratulations to our boys golf team as they are the Middle Border Conference champions, shooting a school record yesterday of 298. Recognizing Noah Schmitz, Ryan Boseneiler, Owen Roseboom, and Nick Mueller. Congrats our all conference boys golfers, which are Noah Schmitz, honorable mention, Ryan Boseneiler, and Owen Roseboom, all conference. Nick Mueller, MBC Golfer of the Year, Nick Mueller. Recognizing Katie Larson, first team all conference discus and honorable mention shot put. Recognizing Peyton Mirth, second team all conference 300-meter hurdles, honorable mention long jump. Sydney Rochelle, honorable mention high jump. Peyton Mirth, Ella Hawkins, Eliza McKenna, Abby Lammers, second team all conference 4x200 relay. And recognizing our 2022 trap team and coaches. Congratulations to our trap team on their first place finish in the conference. Individual members placed in the top 5 are for the females, Faith Bonzi first, and then Grace Manzel was second, Maddie Dull third, and then for the males, Oliver Cran first, Isaac Bauer second, and Ethan Botcher fourth.
Thank you. Number 14, core agenda items. Consideration of recommended lunch prices for 22-23 school year.
So we are recommending for next year, no increase in the student breakfast or lunch prices. Currently, we have 3 months of expenditures as our fund balance, which is the maximum allowed by the FDA. So even if we were to spend a little bit more next year, we can kind of bring down that fund balance a little bit to stay within that normal range. Also keep in mind that we will be going back to paid meals from what I'm hearing, starting in September. So it won't be free meals for all students. So it will be back to paid meals, and then you have to qualify for free or reduced. So at this point, we're recommending no increase in lunch prices.
So we were just reimbursed for each meal, is how that program works?
Right, so for the last 2+ years since COVID, as a part of those COVID relief packages from the federal government, and included free meals for all students. So breakfast and lunch.
So it's from the federal government, actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all food service aid comes from the federal government. I mean, there's a very small portion that comes from the state, but 99% of it's from the federal.
Surprised they didn't have strings attached to that.
Oh, yeah, probably did.
So,
Well, and you weren't here in the days when, they have, every year we still have to complete it. It's called the price equity calculator. Because they want to make sure we were increasing our paid meal prices as much as their reimbursement rates were going up. Basically, but they did get rid of that finally, so we're not required to increase our lunch prices every year.
nice.
So yeah, they have strings.
Are we able to open it up throughout the year, just kind of with inflation and then the third largest wheat producer in the world is getting bombed every day?
Yeah.
So they're talking wheat prices and dairy prices.
Sure.
Are we able to look at this throughout the year or are we locked?
No, I think we can look at it again. If you remember last year, I think it was in December, we had to increase the adult meal prices because of some changes in
So that
the
applies to students as
law.
well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I can triple check on that, but I'm pretty sure we can revisit it.
I just saw the commodities moving.
Yeah.
Significantly.
And, we've been fortunate the last 2 years that we haven't had trouble, getting certain foods or, having to pay a higher price for them. So Chartwell's really has done a great job with that.
No, they're not buying just for our district, they're buying for all of their systems, so I'm sure they've locked in as good a price they can get.
Yeah.
And put screws to the supply chainers so that they don't pick other people before they pick Chartwell.
We don't have to take a lot of time on it, but I'm wondering, when was the last time we did do an increase?
Well, last year, like I said, we had to increase the adult lunch prices. Prior to that, it was for the 2020-21 school year, we did actually increase it by 5 cents.
Yeah, 2 years ago. It's fine.
And then nobody's paid it for 2 years.
Right, no one has had to pay that amount yet.
Some people's math, there'll be an increase next year. So,
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. So, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the recommended lunch prices for 2022 and 23.
Make a motion to approve the recommended prices as presented.
second,
All in favor?
aye,
Opposed?
good.
Right after the motion. Motion second.
Okay.
That's also.
So Brian first made a motion and then
Then second.
Ben seconded. Okay, consideration of recommended student fees for 2022 and 23.
So on the same document, you'll see that we have, starting with the parking permits and down, most of the items have remained the same as this year. Just a couple changes. We're adding a UW River Falls class, Music 105, and the fee for that, you can see there's $300 plus they have a $50 online textbook. And then we are also adding animal science, and that has a $145 fee associated with it. The only other change is with the CAP classes. UW Oshkosh has changed their policy. Through this year, SCC has always collected the money from the students, and then we cut one check to the University of Oshkosh. And next year, the students will be billed directly from Oshkosh for those classes. So I left it on here. It's the same amount and everything. But just with that note that will be collected from Oshkosh, and then I'll probably take it off next year because it's no longer a fee we're charging.
Jen, when kids sign up for those handful of classes where there's a fee, and we have others now, but presumably kids know it when they sign up that there's gonna be a shop fee or a music fee. And do we have any financial assistance if they qualify for free and reduced lunch? Do we have any way to subsidize that kid so we don't have a kid that wants to do the music class and can't afford the $300?
Yeah, so in the handbook that's sent out to all the kids, it has the class fees in there. So they receive a copy of that when they're signing up for their classes, and it's clearly stated in that handbook. And then, what was your second question again?
If there's any financial assistance
Oh.
for kids that maybe wanted to take music and didn't have the $300.
Right, so we do a similar thing with the activities athletic fees, where if they qualify for free or reduced, then we waive that fee.
I was wondering if it's
It-
tied to that or.
It wouldn't pertain to any classes that aren't being held here though. So like the classes at UWRF, they would still have to pay that fee.
Okay.
If we have to pay the fee, then we pass that along to them.
Like at the middle school, I don't know if the high school, but the middle school, you're able to put in additional funds if you want it to go to other kids, right? You've sent the notes out before, so you're able to, as a family, if you want to contribute to others that aren't able to, there's another means as well that the middle school does at least. I don't know about the high school.
Middle school and elementary, I don't think they do high school.
I guess I just would
Like your
like,
experiences.
somehow we shouldn't let kids that couldn't afford $300 and they would benefit from going that UW. We ought to find a way, may not be in the school budget, but there's parents and
Yeah.
other organizations that would probably write that check.
And I think sometimes there are things happening at the building level too that I'm not aware of,
Yeah.
To make that happen.
I just think that's important, but I don't think we need to have a big scholarship program. You just do it on an individual basis. And probably the free and reduced lunch is a good indicator that
Mhm.
somebody might need help.
And I know we have used that for all of our class fees, so.
I move approval of the recommended student fees for 22-23 as presented.
Second.
Jeff first, Vince second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, C, discussion regarding preliminary 2023 budget.
All right, you have a handout that says assumption for the 22-23 budget. So I went through and again, kind of broke everything down into revenue changes and expenditure changes. So our 3-year rolling average, I'm estimating that increasing from 1623 to 1642. The per student amount will stay at $10,000. And just as a reminder there was no revenue limit increase this school year, and there is not one anticipated for next school year either. So this assumes that our summer school FTE will remain at 35 FTE, and that our September enrollment will increase by 2 FTE. So, and that was from, I'm using the Baird budget model, and they do where they transfer each class down to the next year and what percentage of those students usually transfer forward. And that was showing that we would have a very small increase for next year. But we definitely can check that against the population study as well. We have our recurring operational revenue limit increase. That's the 1.35 million. And then we have our ESSER 2 and 3 funding. So we found out a couple weeks ago, our ESSER 3 allocation was around that $1.6 million mark. And then we have about 400,000 in ESSER 2 funds, some of which we're spending this year. So my goal is to spend the least amount possible this year, so that we have more available for next year too. So I'm anticipating we're gonna need somewhere around 900,000 next year of that ESSER 2 and 3 budget to meet our budget goal. Our per pupil adjustment aid will remain at $742, but we will have that increased FTE from 1623 to 1642. So a little bit of extra room there. We sat down with the virtual school principal and kind of went through needed positions for that school because it's growing considerably, as we saw with the open enrollment numbers earlier. So we kind of based that open enrollment amount on the positions that were needed to support that program. So we're adding $412,000 worth of open enrollment revenue to support those needed positions. And then we also, DPI is estimating a slight increase, about $63 in that open enrollment tuition. We also needed to hire a elementary special education teacher. And we do have some carryover funds with IDEA flow-through grants that's related to special education. So we are able to pull that in and use that to cover that cost. We do have currently about $170,000 worth of carryover for IDEA flow-through. So we should be able to fund that position for a few years and keep that going. Beyond that, I assume just a 1% increase in local revenues as an estimate. And I increased our equalized valuation 8%. Our 5-year average is running right about 9%. So I figured 8% was a little bit more conservative. In using that 8% increase and keeping what we've talked with Brian Brewer about for that $6.40 for the referendum piece, we can still levy an additional $2.7 million next year to prepaid debt service as a preliminary.
Without raising the mill rate.
Right. So it keeps the debt service and the operational at $6.40. And then the mill rate, if we do that, would actually drop down to $9.92. So we could choose to keep that at the 1020 if we wanted to, but we can have those conversations as we get a little bit closer to. Any questions on the revenue piece? All right, so expenditures. We had some positions that we added during the school year this year that were not included in the budget. All of them are related to the virtual school. So we had the open enrollment revenue to cover that additional cost for this year, but we need to get them in the budget for next year. So that's the registrar position, the student advisor, and then a 0.55 SPED virtual teacher. We're also adding for next year 1 FTE elementary special education teacher, a 1 FTE math interventionist, a 0.5 FTE behavioral interventionist, 1 FTE middle school virtual teacher, and then a 1 FTE computer technician. We're labeling the computer technician as district-wide, but really the reason why we need that position is because of the virtual school. There's so many laptops coming in and out all the time as kids enroll or drop out, and so it's putting a strain on that department. We've also increased positions for 22-23. Our virtual school elementary teacher is increasing from 500 hours to a full FTE contract. And then our communications coordinator was budgeted this year as a 0.5 FTE. And if you remember, we hired that starting in January. And that will be a 1 FTE then for next year. We had our referendum approved wage increase. I also put the CPI in there just for your reference. But we were looking at just shy of 1.5 million. So that is a little bit more than what we had went for referendum was the 1.35. Part of it was due to renegotiating with the counselors and the psychs in that group. So that was a little more expensive. And then we already had set aside that we would pay 200,000 of that cost as well. So
What would have we done if the referendum didn't pass? I mean, because we approved those as that they fit into the budget, right?
the
You understand what I'm saying or
We
no?
would have done 2%.
we would have, yeah.
No, but the big increase came when we adjusted their wage mid-year, right?
Who was we?
The the counselors or whatever.
Those, oh,
Yeah,
got it.
so then, but that was, we just built that into our budget regardless of as if it would have passed.
For 20
When
people, not
we-
150.
Right, for this year, they did have an increase. And then for next year, we renegotiated with them again. But they knew that would only pass if the referendum passed.
They got a bump up too.
Most school districts were in the fours for their rate wage increase because of CPI,
Okay,
just with inflation.
I was just wondering because I mean, you know,
Mhm.
But yeah,
because
changing it mid-year was.
because it was like a $25,000 thing, yeah, mid-year or something like that. I just can't remember that moment. Total.
So in the increased positions for 22-23, are those the deltas being represented there, or is that total cost?
That's the additional cost.
That's a delta for both. Okay.
So we already had the halftime budgeted for communication, so that's the additional that we need.
That was my
to
assumption.
make that full. Yeah. Health insurance premiums increase in January again. We are in the 2023 will be the second year of a 3-year contract. We have been successful in negotiating with them each year and trying to get that rate down a little bit. But as of right now, we're sitting at an 11% increase for 2023. I'm anticipating a 5% increase in dental, just as an estimate, and then no increase in your vision, life, and long-term disability. Sometimes those will go up a little bit, but the whole cost is not that much, so we can work that into the budget. Wisconsin retirement, I'm anticipating to remain the same at 6.5%. And then FICA, of course, will stay the same as well. One thing we did present to the teachers was increasing the 403B from 1.5% to 2%. And the thought was originally we had the plan of increasing it from the 1.5% up to about 4.5% or 5%. But with the increase in the salaries from the referendum, we felt like 2% was a good mark and that it would remain at that indefinitely.
2% of a higher number
Right.
in their salary.
So those are all like the salary and benefit changes. A few changes in some of
John,
the
before
other.
you move on,
Yep.
and I don't know if we talked about the local retirement benefit, but I'm wondering if we have, this increased revenue at the same mill rate, if there wouldn't be a reason, and I guess we don't get a discount, so if we like calculate that local retirement and just wipe it out. I don't know. I mean, there's still 10 years left of that to pay, but it's an
Yeah.
ever decreasing number.
Right.
So I just wonder if we shouldn't just look at what would it, because if we can levy money this year without raising taxes and pay that off rather than paying off bond debt. I don't know if there's, because that money then becomes available in
Right.
future budgets, because we have to. So that would be a way
Right.
to free up cash in future budgets where we can't
can't
really.
Levy more though for
No.
that, but. so we
Oh,
can-
Could we use ESSER 3 funds to prepay the local retirement benefit?
I just think we should look at it because that might
I
be a
don't
way to,
think
That's one thing I
so.
thought of.
might just be a way to, because we prepay
Come on.
next year's obligation this year to free up money
Right.
next year.
Right,
You know, could we do that in some other
We-
cases and just say, hey, we owe it to you, we'll just give it to you, then it frees up
we
money,
could,
because by prepaying debt, we can't increase our operating budget.
right,
Where if we prepay that retirement benefit that's coming out of our operating budget, it would
it
give us,
helps.
it would give us
Mhm.
free cash within our operating budget. So
Yeah.
I just think it's something that we should look at.
Yeah, I mean, we could. Cause we still have, you know, according to the local retirement benefit plan that we have now, grandfathering those people, and
Right.
some of those people haven't retired yet.
Oh, I see.
So we don't owe the obligation until they've actually met the criteria and retired.
You know, but
But
I'm
we
just
could
thinking the ones,
renegotiate,
or the ones that we have, you know, that are accruing over the next few years.
Yeah. definitely,
Write 'em a
we could
check.
do that. Mhm.
I don't know that it's the right thing to do, but I think it's worth looking at,
If we had the funds available, we would be
Right.
able to do that. Yeah,
because it does free up cash in future operating budgets
Mhm.
where prepaying debt or, you know, referendum dollars doesn't free up operational dollars.
right, but prepaying the debt, we can levy more,
Right.
yeah. So
Well, we
it's
levy more only within our revenue caps.
Not for the debt, that's over
No,
and
but I know,
above.
but we,
Yeah,
but we can't levy more on the operating.
right,
We're pretty much at the revenue caps.
we're at the limit, we're levying to the limit of our revenue cap.
But if we
That's the
levy to
district.
the limit, is this 2.7 million? Is that?
That's
what?
outside of the
The
revenue
operating.
limit,
Okay,
yeah,
yep.
it's
So that's
outside,
debt service
right,
levy. Okay,
and that's the
understood.
only reason why we can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could just add, you know, to our regular revenue limit and renegotiate with them, but that's not to say, I mean, even this year, things are changing still. We're getting close to the end of the year. Just this morning, Tina came in and said we received a check from the Village of Roberts for a TID district that is done with its 20-year term. And that was like 95,000
And we
that we
use
were
that,
not expecting.
and we used
So
that
we
a number
could-
of years ago to start the
Yes, we
403B. So, I mean, if we could pay off $104,911 in this budget,
Yeah,
we'll free up $104,911 in next year's budget,
right,
just on that required local.
yeah. So we can do that, or this year, we also have those ESSER dollars. Do we use that to prepay, or do we not claim as much under the ESSER dollars, you know? So those are kind of decisions that we need to make. Lots of options. Okay, so the other object series, beyond the salary and benefits. We do have a decrease in unemployment insurance. We had 15,000 earmarked this year and we have not spent any of that. We actually received a credit back from during COVID when we had a lot of claims on our unemployment. So we will get a check back for like $20,000 in overpayments after some COVID relief had gone through later. So I think we can clearly cut that back down to about $5,000. Our student insurance is decreasing slightly. I'm anticipating an increase in the utility budgets. 3% might be a little on the shy side. Just was looking at this year and how it was trending, and hoping that 3% will be enough. we might have to put a little bit more in there. We did have a few classroom and athletic supply budgets that needed a little extra funding, so I worked with those supervisors to make that happen. And then we currently have a fuel budget for the buses of 90,000. And with diesel at over $5 a gallon, we're not gonna meet that this year. So hopefully those prices will come down a little bit, but I'm anticipating adding at least 25,000 into that budget. And then we also have the first lease payment on our new buses that we purchased that we received last fall. So that's 86,000, almost 87,000. And we do plan to use ESSER funding for that. And then just a little bit for our open enrollment out. Again, when DPI increases that per student amount, then we have to account for that on the expenditure side as well. So that's what we're looking at. If you go to the last page, that's the output model from the Beard budget model. So you can see the budget year. Well, we have the current year 21-22 and then our budget year 22-23. That gives us a little leeway, about 135,000 to go toward fund balance. And again, it's going to be kind of this dance as to how much do we claim on ESSER, how much do we have to put in our fund balance, and see how that plays out. Another thing to point out in 23-24, I mean, this is a ways out there yet, but that ESSER funding has to be spent by September of 24. And that's one-time funding, and we've been using it for ongoing expenditures. So that number is not looking so great. Hopefully the state will live up to their promises and increase the per student revenue limit. And we'll see what happens as we move forward.
Remind me.
Notification. When do they do this?
We might not know until, I mean, a lot of times it's August, July, August,
We're supposed to
September.
be done by July like us, but
Yeah.
we're in this, we're when you're one of a biennial budget, so next year is already set.
Second year.
So they're gonna be starting with the joint finance committee and talking and lobbying and legislating. Talks like usually November, December. The joint finance committee has hearings in March. Go back and forth and do their politics and I don't know. It all depends. Like, which governor wins, which party. If it's like now, Democratic governor, Republican majority, it's a lot of this. So
But remind me, because of the ESSER funds, the state decided not to give us the 2% increase, so we're basically using, because the state isn't funding, so hopefully they make that up.
Right.
forced us to use
Yeah, ESSER
one-time
funds.
funds to run an ongoing,
Operating budget.
right? And that's referred to as a fiscal cliff unless they do something. They said, trust us. So it's scary.
So we had to trust them, and we'll see. Yeah. And, there have been years when it's been as late as October and we're getting ready to set the levy, and we find out 2 days ahead of time what that funding is going to look like for the year that we're already started.
I sort of purposely don't want to listen to the news. Minnesota, I know, has $1 trillion surplus. Where's Wisconsin? Do they have a surplus or?
Yeah,
the
Wisconsin
revenues?
does.
So
It wasn't quite as big as Minnesota's, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember how much it was, but yeah, there was a surplus. So, yeah, that's why in the revenue projections, again, there was no increase in that revenue limit. Usually we would see somewhere around that $200 mark per student. And this year and next year, it's 0. So that's where the ESSER funding fills in.
Is Fund 46 just a unicorn kind of thing? Like, do we ever? Is there? I mean, it'd be nice not to have to ask for some of the projects in a referendum that we have to, because we can't.
Where are you gonna get the money?
Yeah.
It's like savings account that you don't have any savings. to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, right, it'd be there's decisions to be made for ESSER three. That's a big chunk of money. But there's lots of options. Well, some strings attached, many strings attached, but there's some
Yeah.
flexibility. So yeah, Fund 46, preparing local retirement. We're not gonna recommend definitely anything for recurring expenses more than what we have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Looks like you've already got it all accounted for almost, right? 1.379 million on ESSER three with 400,000 this year, 892, and then 86.
No, the 892 would be the full amount for next year, plus whatever we end up spending this year. Which I'm not 100, we don't have that number
Just said like
finalized yet.
400 or whatever.
Yeah,
So 892 includes,
so you would take the 892 plus what we actually spend in ESSER funding this year.
right?
So I'm thinking it's gonna be somewhere between 300 and 400. But now, like I said, things are changing. We just got a $96,000 check in the mail.
Okay.
So do we not, use that
Yeah.
instead to help
Yeah,
fill in those gaps? So,
yeah, I'm just saying there wasn't a lot left over if we do 300 or 400 plus the 892.
right, then it's the 1.6 for ESSER three plus 400,000 for ESSER two. So we're looking at right around 2 million total.
Okay.
And
So there is money available in the following fiscal year.
only through September 30th,
Yeah, early.
early, yeah.
Maybe for Dave's benefit, Jen presents in the spring. I'm as early as March, April,
Yeah.
or later this year, May, because of all these variables. So this is preliminary budget, then she has to present another budget that's adjusted based on real-time data for the annual meeting in July for the electorate to approve that budget. Then the actual budget isn't submitted until end of October, based on our third Friday count and all these other variables. So it's really goofy. It's not ideal, but it's the parameters in which we have to operate. But so this is the best guess best prediction as of right now.
Today, yeah.
Today.
So what I'm hearing in the past, when we've heard that, it's like, okay, we're $500,000 short. What are we gonna cut? With the assumptions you have here, we can pretty much do everything that we were hoping with some enhancements.
Yeah.
With some enhancements without tightening the belt and cutting things that we've been doing in the past.
Right. And it's because of the ESSER funding.
And when that fiscal cliff is gone, we'll have to make, either the state helps us or we'll have tough decisions to make again.
Right.
A nice job. That's really helpful.
Thank you. So we're on D, consideration of approval of resolution authorizing the issuance and awarding the sale of a $20 million bond anticipation note.
All right, I'm probably gonna butcher this one, but so on May 4th, we met with Brian Brewer and he explained the financing scenarios for the bonds. So 14D is for the bond anticipation notes, which are the proceeds that we will be receiving on June 13th. So I actually received the final pricing packet from them today. They were sold and to be finalized on June 13th. When we met on the 4th, Brian had estimated a 2% interest rate and they came in very close at 1.96%.
Despite concerns that maybe it would go up to 3 or something like that.
I don't think he was too worried about the bond anticipation notes. That's the short-term one
Oh, yeah.
until we can finalize on the general obligation bonds.
It's like a construction bond,
Yeah, yeah,
sure, a little bit of
right. So it's usually a little bit lower. So yeah, so that came in pretty much right on at 1.96%. So that resolution just authorizes that process to happen, so that we can get those proceeds in June.
I'll move approval of the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $20 million of general obligation refunding bonds.
No, bond anticipation, note, the one prior.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The bond anticipation note, sorry.
Second.
Jeff first and Vince second. The,
Nope.
okay,
Just call for the vote.
okay, call for,
All those in favor?
all of those in favor,
Aye. Aye.
opposed? Okay, E, consideration of approval of resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $20 million general obligation refunding bonds. Exhibit E.
So that is the second part of the process. So the plan is mid-September, those bonds must be paid off, and then we'll get the proceeds from the actual bonds. The resolution paperwork sets a perimeter. Brian usually refers it to as the perimeter resolution that says under what terms they can purchase the bonds. It gives them and us a little more flexibility. Instead of setting a specific date that the bonds must be purchased, they can kind of see what the market is doing and get the best interest rates on those.
And just remind why we're not going 30 million.
So we wanted to leave, because we're still going to be having some debt service prepayments like we've been doing the last few years as that operational referendum continues to increase. It just gave us a little more flexibility. So Brian wanted to lock in all the long term. So those general obligation bonds will be out in like 2033. So we're looking out 10 years, locking those in, trying to get those locked down so we know what those costs will be. Then the 10 million is left to have a little more flexibility with, can we borrow it and prepay it right away because we have the money? If those interest rates come in a little bit higher than what we have on our current debt, we might want to do that to reduce interest costs.
And we don't anticipate needing that other 10 million. We'd probably defer that till even next school year.
Right, I think it was around October of next year
Of not
that we
this
would-
year, but a year from now.
in 2023, yes.
I mean, I talked to Brian about it, it made sense to me, but I just make sure that everybody understands we're not borrowing 30, even though we can.
Right,
We will get that other 10 later,
yeah,
and there's reasons. I mean, Brian has really helped us immensely, so I trust his judgment, but it's lock in long-term rates on the 20.
Yep.
Give us flexibility on the 10, so as we grow faster or whatever, and we can prepay debt as we've done in the past.
right,
That's that flexibility.
yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
With the 20, you said, well, we could put it into some interest bearing account.
Right, so,
It's called arbitrage,
Yeah.
and we will not, we'll earn less than the bonds accrue.
yeah,
In the old days, you could borrow money and invest it in a higher and you
No,
got spiff, but
Yeah.
today that's not happening anymore.
well, essentially what happens is if you earn more in interest than what you're paying, you would get to pay that back to the federal government. So,
shouldn't be a problem.
yeah, so we do have an investment plan from American Deposit Management. That's what we've worked with on the last at least 3 referendums. And they're anticipating earnings of around 450,000 during the term of the project. So with an anticipation completion date in late 2024.
And is that 400 in Brian's forecasting used to pay debt, or is that actually an extra 400 that we get to spend?
That is actually 400 that we get to spend.
Cool.
I think Brian said we can either spend it under, it has to fall under the resolution. We can spend it on items that we need under the resolution that was passed for the referendum, or we can use it to pay off debt that it's existing.
Yeah, I mean, you can't use it for operating.
Right,
Yeah, or you can throw a baseball field or something.
yeah. So it has to fall under that initial resolution.
I'll move approval of the general obligation refunding bonds as presented.
Second.
I just have one on there that we had discussed having a backup person. And in the resolution, it says president and clerk and calls them out, and we had talked about not calling them out.
I think they did what they could. So
Okay.
instead of putting a name, it was just the title.
Okay,
Cause
yeah,
Tom,
because you want to just like promptness, so if somebody wasn't available for whatever
Right.
reason, we talked about a backup, so this doesn't, we're not able to have a backup then.
right,
I mean, that was just a change from what we discussed at the offsite. So.
yeah. Yeah, so that was what we were able to do, after talking with Tom Griggs. I know Brian had that conversation with him. He's the attorney that drew up all the paperwork.
I just wanted to.
Yeah.
When I read it, that was different, that was all.
Okay, so Jeff, any other questions? Jeff first,
Dave?
Dave for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to F, consideration of approval of credit, line of credit, 14F.
All right. June 5th. I feel like I've been talking all night. For the June 5th payroll, we are going to need to short-term borrow. So this line of credit looks a little bit different than what you have seen in the past. We have it going through the 23-24 school year. I asked the bank if they would be willing just to do it to June 30th, and they said, it would just be a lot easier on their end if they could extend it out for the entire next school year. So with this passing, we would be able to borrow in June to cover that June 5th payroll until we receive our state aid on the third Monday. And then next school year, if there was a point in time when we needed to borrow, those funds would be available. Of course, contingent upon it passing at the annual meeting. Because each year at the meeting of the electorate, that must be approved. So, little bit different, like I said, the interest rate is, we've been running about 3.5% lately on our short-term loans through Citizens. This one's at 3.75, so a little bit higher. But I thought it was fairly reasonable considering like what we're looking at for our bonds, that being quite a bit more than what they have been in the past.
So is there a reason it says July 1st of 24?
Basically June 30th, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just,
The end of next fiscal year. So like if we needed money on June 30th, we could borrow it, we'd have to pay it off on July 1st
of 24.
of 24.
A year away.
Yeah.
Not really, still
Oh,
qualifies within our
Yeah.
short term, that's 2 years.
that's 2 years.
Is that what
okay.
they intended?
He told me one, so.
I don't know if it qualifies within our capabilities in short-term borrowing.
I sent this to Sarah and she said that was fine. So she didn't have a problem with it. She said it's just the disclosure on the financial statements will look a little bit different because it's carrying over from one fiscal year to the next.
Do we need it next week or whatever?
We need it for the June 5th payroll, so coming up here in the next couple weeks.
So I signed that one because of the date.
Yeah.
That's right. So the rest are not signed, but I signed that one because of the date of it.
Well, I guess the only thing I would ask is in the past, the kind of borrowed money, I mean, we had authority to borrow money, but we only did it when we needed it. And it wasn't like
Just a
you have authority to do it whenever. I guess I'd like to know.
We did it last year.
I know, but we
We
always
did it for
knew when,
we did it for 6 months though, without coming back.
but we always got told we're gonna have to borrow money next week to make payroll because state aid is late or whatever. I just would like to continue that practice.
Definitely.
that The board knows when we're borrowing money and then we're not borrowing money just because we're short. We're borrowing money because we're waiting for state aid. And
Right.
I understand the summer, we pay people for the whole summer. Right? And so that's
We
actually
have some.
crosses fiscal years. So we don't get some of that. We're actually paying money that we don't get state aid for till the following year. So I get it, but
The biggest problem during the whole school year is we receive 35% of our state aid in June when our year is done.
yeah, we get. a
We've
month
had,
left to-
most of our expenses are incurred and we're receiving a large portion of it then. So yes, definitely, just like I've said in the past, that I will keep you guys up to date and make sure that you know when we're borrowing and anticipated dates that it will start and stop.
I don't remember
And
borrowing
just,
except in the summer. Have we had to borrow in mid-year before?
yeah,
It was before two years ago or last year.
We-
we
No,
did
it's
it
just like, I
prior.
remember we did.
Yeah,
it really depends on, how the expenses hit, but we've had to do it before in like late November, early December. In March is another time where we kind of run into a
Cash
little bit
flow
of a crunch, and then June.
because that's what we did is it was in March and you knew we were gonna run out in
Yeah.
June, so we did the 6 month or whatever it was to cover
Yes.
both instead of a go twice.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And the line of credit actually works out nice because if I don't need the entire 900,000 to cover the bills, I can just, we can just use 500,000 or whatever we actually need. Where when it's a loan, I have to let them know 6 weeks in advance that we're going to need a loan so I can get the paperwork together. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna need at that point in time. So it gives us a little more flexibility that way too, to reduce those interest costs down as much as possible.
Good.
Any other questions?
Is everybody comfortable with 2 years?
I mean, we're gonna approve it because we have to pay our bills, so it doesn't bother me too much. As long as we have this understanding that
Yeah.
you won't do it without talking to the board.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the line of credit as presented.
Second.
So motion by Ryan, second by Dave. Okay, moving on.
Oh, gotta vote.
Oh, sorry. All in favor?
Right?
Opposed? Okay, moving on to G, appointment of representative to the 22 PSA 11 annual convention.
Jeff's already on the board.
But what's the date?
June 6th, 7 p.m. Turtle Lake, right before the regular board.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna be in town,
You're not.
so we need somebody else if we want to be representative.
It's basically their annual meeting.
Right, and I'm in Montana.
June 6th, 7 p.m. Turtle Lake.
Did I say?
Thursday usually. Isn't it a Thursday?
It's a
Sixth.
Monday.
On that,
Well, yeah, because the 5th is a Sunday.
You said we had a meeting already?
Well, there's a board of control.
You have.
And I'm on the
He
board.
said he does. He's on the board, yeah. So it makes sense. He's gonna be there anyway, but typically it's the same person.
Yeah. Don't
Well,
know
they
that-
want our delegate. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
you
asking
should,
for that.
you should
by
have something.
Thursday.
Anybody want to go?
It's gonna be the most spectacular evening you've ever experienced in your life.
Well, I want to go.
I've enjoyed actually being on that. There's really good people.
Monday, June 6th, 7 p.m. And then, so that's the annual meeting. Then there's an organizational meeting and a regular board meeting, but they wouldn't stay for.
No,
that
they
'cause they're
just
not
the
on board.
annual meeting, they could go. Unless they want to. I'm up for election. I mean, so I will get elected if I have raised my hand. But
Right.
if you go and you want to be the delegate, then you can raise your own
I
hand.
mean, you could stand, attend the board.
Well, I
Watch it.
would,
Would you observe it?
you could, but I wouldn't.
It's, that's not the most exciting.
No,
Or, okay.
I mean, most of it's having about head start.
You need someone, I could maybe, I'm a maybe right now. I just gotta figure out when I'm out of town.
I can go for sure. So
One of us, then maybe.
They need the name submitted in a form by Thursday.
you want to check?
I'll check tomorrow morning.
And then I'll let you know. Or
Kelly needs
Kelly.
to know. She
Like,
said,
I
fill
use that because it's actually due today.
what's that?
Oh,
I asked him if I could do it tomorrow morning and she said that was fine.
If you know, you can go.
Because
Oh,
they
really?
want to mail some stuff out, yeah.
Oh, her email said by this week, by Thursday.
Oh, maybe they extended it when I last. saw it
9:30
was
this
today.
morning.
Yeah.
9:30 this morning, she said,
Oh, then maybe she extended it then.
okay.
Just do it then.
okay.
I'm not for sure, so.
So Erica,
Yep, I'll go.
I don't think that, is that typically a motion?
No,
No. So would you fill that out, please? I sent you
Yeah.
for things.
thanks for covering for me.
Sure.
I'll finish my vacations here soon and
Or you can me what?
Yeah.
Most of us just get
Baker's
on
dozen.
vacation. Not
then
vacation.
Montana will be my 9th trip this year.
Calendar year,
Yeah, just 6 months.
first quarter.
No, Q1, Q2. It's not that bad.
8 more than that.
you're including work though, right?
I work every day.
But I mean, you said it was the company.
There were a couple of them were work trips.
I'm gonna start.
I work every day.
Kelly, what time is the meeting? Or
7.
7? Okay.
Usually they have dinner or something, don't they?
7
I
and
don't
it's-
know.
I would
No,
certainly
no.
think so. CISA always says.
So H, appointment of district representative at WASB Legislative Delegate Assembly.
So that's the annual convention in Milwaukee. Howard's talked about it a long time. Jeff's done it.
I enjoy going. I was, when they did COVID last year, I can do it remotely.
So number one, yeah, if you're planning on going, I don't remember, do they send you a packet? That's right.
You get a packet, there's a whole packet that's there.
You were gonna do that.
Yeah, the packet and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
You wanna try
and
to?
we said, what are the odds that you have to wear a mask?
Yeah.
Nah, they'll-
Zero.
Go.
Zero.
Yeah, you missed another great opportunity. I think you should do it.
What are the dates?
Are you gonna go?
Depends on what the date, I don't know what the date.
It's free enough. It's early enough.
Yeah.
It's
January
January
20.
20 something usually,
So,
I think it's the 18th. That's okay.
or 18.
January 20th. It's a basketball game.
right.
It's really good. Encourage everyone to.
Yeah,
It really is.
I was planning on going last
You
year.
get a lot.
Yeah.
Talking
And I
about
think
the season.
it's very likely that we might present.
Yeah, at least
I'm gonna
we're
go to-
submitting another
Yeah.
proposal
I'll
by
be in
Friday.
And we
Yeah.
can figure it.
Yep. Yep.
Is there a certain, do we know the date of that? Like of the
That's
meeting?
Thursday, or is it the first day, Jeff?
No, it's not the first day.
So I think it's Thursday the 19th.
My kid's birthday.
Don't you like to be busy on those days anyways?
Ah,
Anniversary.
It makes not a lot of
whatever.
difference to me and to other people it does.
Okay, so we've got Josh as our delegate or district rep. So moving on to I, designate Citizen State Bank of Roberts as the official depository for the St. Croix Central School District.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Jeff, second by Brian, all in favor. Okay, moving on to J, designate the Hudson Star Observer as the official newspaper for the St. Croix Central School District.
Does it have to be?
No,
When I feel like Baldwin's been covering our stuff.
When
Star
they-
Observer has, so.
when I had the paper, if you have a paper in your district, you have to designate them, whether you want to or not, but we don't have a paper here. So I'm kind of with you.
I haven't
I'm
seen,
not
I
impressed with them.
haven't seen him come to a meeting or anything, so. That would be fair.
Who gets the Baldwin? I do not.
Not very many people.
But like, so
But they
you
have,
say
but they have an online presence and they talk about our golf team
Okay.
just recently and our.
Yes, since Jason Schulte started working there, you definitely get more coverage.
And they did the employee, they did the board forum.
I mean, I don't think, Callie, are there any things, I mean,
I'd rather,
typically in the past, we looked at prices and because, we have to post class two.
I'd rather give a little bit of money to them
the
for,
local
for,
guy.
I would agree, they're local and small business.
I would like to designate the Baldwin Bulletin as our newspaper. St. Croix Central School District.
Second.
A motion by Vince, second by Brian, all in favor. Aye. Opposed? Okay, consideration of proposed board meeting dates for 2022-23.
Do we even dare?
I'm gonna try. So just board development, I ran these 5 dates by Lee Kritzel and all 5, it was miraculously open and penciled in at least, so I know that would have been one of your questions. Is Lee open for them? He is.
And I think that we should also reschedule the May ones that we tried to do into
June.
early June. Lee was available June 1st. Are people available June 1st?
Out of town.
You are out of
Vacation.
The ninth, I know, I'm sorry. The first trip, I forgot about that trip.
You're living a good life there.
You'd think I worked for Anderson, man,
Okay, so you're out.
on the first,
First. Okay, the other one, dates that Lee could do is June 20th, which is a Monday. That work for anyone or everybody?
It's open.
For me, out, like we're just not doing anything until that day. So we're out of town. We're just finishing nationals for dance.
Hmm.
The day prior, so.
How about the 27th? I mean, would you be later in the week or that day is the only day that week that you'd?
20th through the 22nd. Not.
All right, he is. And then we've got referendum meetings on the 23rd, which is open. So then it leaves us down to June 27th, which is a Monday.
That's my vacation.
This is,
You're gone the whole week.
I think we get back to first.
Yeah, that's all, 27th,
Yeah.
28th.
Yeah, because Brian's gone here.
Yeah, those are all the dates Lee was available to. All right,
You said June 1st didn't work? You were gone?
I'm gone. Let me just see here. What time my plane leaves. Sure.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, leaves at 6:30 or something like that. Leaves in the evening, but.
Because then our next one is July 13th, so.
Hell, this should do that.
That'll just be July, August.
well, those work for Lee. Now the next thing is to go down those dates and see if they work for everybody else. Cause I mean, my suggestion is, yeah, get them on the calendar and commit, cause we just saw how hard it is to keep people. together.
July 13th works.
I'm in Canada.
Hmm?
I'm in Canada fishing from 2 years ago, finally.
Yeah, fine, Jim.
When is your vacation, Brian, or when are you gone?
8th, returning the 18th.
July 20th.
We have a board meeting that date.
Board
How about the 18th?
He's just come
meeting.
here,
I'm returning that
Oh,
day.
you're returning. which is who knows what
I-
time.
Think it's 9-hour drive. So as
Yeah,
long
you
as
can-
nothing happens, I'm,
Nah, that's
Yeah, you
How about
don't
the-
wanna do that the 19th.
27th.
well, it's a car versus a plane. So
Are we doing 2 days in August again? Or is it just? Is this the one with the staff or whatever?
I don't know, it's up to you guys, but we just, for first draft, we just put one. It's been so hard to get one day together, not two, and give you a pipe dream.
Or just, that worked out pretty good last, because we had one in.
Just go right down the line, see if it works, and then we'll,
Okay,
which, so if we confirm any of them, then I could always get Lee on the phone and
okay.
decide real time.
So July 13th does not work and
I mean, at some point, are you gonna be able to get everybody? So, I mean, I get the premise.
Let's try.
Plus, we don't even know what Dave's calendar is.
Why?
We don't know what David's
I just get
calendar
the-
is.
Well, normally he's gone the 3rd or the 4th week of July. They do their week trip. Right? Cause I remember working around that 2 years in a row. So they did that week-long thing, cause he
Oh, with all the family.
plans for like 3 days packing or whatever, then he's gone for cause it prevented the Thursday prior and the next
Okay.
full week.
I'm just wondering if it wouldn't make more sense to use a thing called Doodle, where you put out dates and you see who could do it, and then we
Yeah.
just ultimately, so we would, with respect to board development, the only dates that Lee can do it. And then see, and then I think Brian's right, eventually we're just gonna have to say, we're gonna have to do the people that we can do.
That'd be easier.
you wanna do it with Lee, and then there's
The board development ones.
always.
Yeah, so,
Yep.
yeah, he's at a meeting now anyway, so.
But I can
I think it's a
schedule
great
out
idea.
the rest of the year.
Doodle poll for all his available dates each month that we're targeting and see what happens.
Yep.
And then
Is it
if you get 100%,
inappropriate,
then you gotta decide, are we gonna do it or not?
inappropriate to schedule for the whole school year? So we go till July 1st of
we should.
2023? Get in his calendar.
Well, that was the date, that was the
That's what
goal
we were
here,
hoping.
Yeah.
and that's,
And perhaps the summer
Which,
is.
which day was our board meeting that we went to?
Pardon?
When was our board meeting?
July 20th.
July 20th, and then the annual board meeting is the 27th.
Can we have our board meeting like early that day? It's July. Would the agenda be kind of light then?
could be, typically is.
And then we could just go right into that.
Possibility.
Mm-hmm.
6 o'clock board meeting or something, or 5 o'clock.
Can everybody be here by 5:30?
I'll know after tomorrow. They're doing a big leadership meeting that week
For July,
for 2 days.
July 20th or something.
So I don't know what that is exactly yet, but we have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 to plan it.
it will-
Somebody just wants to do it in here.
That might be me too. The 16th to the 23rd.
Doodle.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the
Alright.
most efficient way to do this. Okay. Regular meeting dates, we're gonna stick with those. We won't be changing those, right?
It's
Right,
It's your meeting. Yeah, I think it works.
right, we'll just stick to those.
I had brought it up to put on the agenda if we wanted to change it again, because we were setting it last meeting.
Change what to set what?
Change it to, because there was discussion about more frequent. That's why I had heard that, so that's why I brought it up if we want to discuss it. Right, Erica, you mentioned it to me, that's why I brought it up,
Right.
if we wanted to look at it.
So the regular meetings, but we were talking about, I believe, the board development, but if you look at the schedule, that's already 5. So did we want to meet more often for board development, or is that going to be too?
If we did, we wouldn't have to have Leah all the time.
We could have
It's
meetings without him. I personally believe that meetings are better if outside facilitator. Would be my
Well, the discussion what you had brought up, that was not board development, it was general meetings for discussion, because we weren't connected on things that were occurring to do more frequent, so that wouldn't necessarily be a board development meeting.
Oh, just more.
Go ahead. Or
Well, it could work out because with the referendum stuff, is there gonna be like this timely approvals or anything?
No, not for the board. All straight up stuff.
when we first started, it was, we did board development or board learning, and we had agendas that had the business like, and I believe David or other people.
Brian that challenged that. I think it was a good.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I like
like we're trading it with Lee, right? I mean, that's what part of our discussion with him was, to back off. But I just brought up when we wanted to discuss it, because I knew we were setting the
What do you guys
agenda
think?
for the calendar for the year.
Are we good?
If
You
you
want
want my
more?
2 cents, yeah, I mean, the meetings you have aren't well attended anymore, I would think would be beneficial.
Regular meetings, yeah, the work meetings, I think let's get them done in once a month, and if we have to have some special meeting, we can do it, but it's so infrequent.
That is the problem with the attendance.
So we've decided the rest of the board learning meetings for the year? We're good with
No,
that?
we're
No,
doing,
we're gonna doodle, we're gonna send out a doodle and what you'd look at your
It
calendar.
seems like it would fall first on your calendar. If we just
But I think the vacations are the difficult
Summer.
part. and
Well, the summer's the problem, but after that, it just goes on your calendar and the rest of your life, that's what all matters.
I say keep it.
Keep it to one time a
Yeah.
month.
If we're having problems having everyone at.
Yep.
You know, a lot of busy schedules, so keep it once a month.
Yes.
I'll show up whenever.
But what do you think? Do you think that we need more?
I'm good.
I'm just.
But it's always nice to stay a little more connected,
Connect-
but
I agree, but to have everybody here is the problem.
I don't have much of an opinion right now. I'm fine with once a month. We stay connected through email so that if we need to talk about something.
I think we had 2 board developments the whole, right? Did we only have 2 board?
if you count the one in August, we did.
Yes, it's.
Yeah, the plan was to
changed
do
around
at least
December.
quarterly or something. That was the plan.
Because we
just-
canceled 2 for sure,
we
right?
changed it in September or October.
I'm hearing doodle poll for board development. What about regular meeting dates? Are anybody seeing issues with those? And they're highlighted if they're not the
Right.
third
Wednesday.
third Wednesday because of whatever, spring break, Christmas programs, and January is because of state convention.
But like having a regular rhythm, and to the extent we don't get people show up, but it's nice for people to know that this one we have a meeting. I mean, forever it was Mondays.
So in the past, like you schedule a meeting, if somebody couldn't make it, you just proceeded as long as there's a quorum.
Yeah.
I would, my experience, it's really hard for so many people to set it, block your calendar and then reschedule it. That's another.
How
night.
many
It's gonna
dates
make it
didn't
more
work for the
difficult.
third Wednesday? Or just a doable?
3.
3 of them on the December 14th, 2nd, as opposed to the 21st. January 25th is the 4th because of the annual convention. and then the 22nd of March because of spring break, are the three.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular board meetings as presented.
Second. Can we include the annual meeting as long as you're making a motion? That's the
27th.
25th.
Yeah.
25th.
I'll amend my motion to include the annual meeting.
Amend my second. to Include that.
Technically, you don't even have to be there. It's a meeting of the electorate.
So the motion was by Vince, second was by Jeff, all in favor,
Right.
opposed? Who will set the meeting?
Callie or somebody will do the doodle.
Kelly,
Figure that
I'll
out.
work with Lee to
Okay.
get a doodle poll out. Are you okay with trying to hit those months or, those are just kind of, one was in the summer, because we thought, well, let's have one right away with
I think we
new
know.
board member and,
Yeah.
but then it was quarterly from there. I heard feedback that you liked the one with administration.
Yeah.
So July is gonna be the hardest based on the discussion.
So should we try to Vince's point, do a back-to-back in August with the board one for admin? We did last year. Any preference on which one first?
I kind of like having the admin first. Myself. Okay. But then we can
Yeah, then
talk about them when they leave.
So moving on to L, consideration of first reading of board policy 11.1, parent involvement.
I don't know, probably 5 years ago, we started updating policies, Pam and I, instead of using the Neola service of $10,000 or whatever annually. And we went through all the ones that were most important and necessary. And then as they become available or needed, we adopt them here or develop them. So thus, you don't see many anymore, but this one, the impetus was Megan Elmore's a Title I coordinator, needed one. Title I is a federal program, asked for a parent involvement policy. We looked everywhere, we don't have them. So it does fit within the WASB numbering system in the 800s. It's actually parent involvement 811.1. Did some research of other schools. There aren't many schools that have them, but Kelly and I just developed this first draft and ran it by Megan. She had a couple bullets there at the end to meet their policy. So this is the first reading. Again, for policies, for those of you not familiar, first one's a draft. Look at it, discuss it, make some edits perhaps, and we'll bring it back next month for the second reading, which it becomes official. Which if it was, that would be June 15th.
We have to approve it for completion. So the second reading, we can.
And approve, yeah, we'll actually do a motion. This is just a discussion. So with that said, is there anything on here you'd like to add, edit, delete?
This was just copy and pasted. Basically, sorry.
Well, there were probably 4 different things we looked at and said, this most fits us. And then what meets the requirements of Title I and Megan's requirements, her paperwork. So that's, yeah. That's what we did with all policies. We kind of copied and pasted what fit for a start. And you do legal cross references, state statute references, things like that. And these policies are written specific enough to, hey, they're informative, but not so specific that you have to bring them back for edits every time something changes. So.
Looks good.
That's what was good.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't think this. Where it is.
Okay, number 15, possible future agenda items. Any ideas?
So we've got the note, the enrollment trends versus population study. Just do a comparison and develop a report and report back on June 15th.
And on the other ones, I'd like to have kind of a game plan on how we're gonna make the decisions on the construction project. I mean, we don't need the micromanagement, but I think we told the community there'd be opportunities for, as we did elementary, for input. So I'd like just to hear if we know what the plan is for, in the past, we've had like a construction committee that included board members. I mean, maybe aren't that far along yet, but
Sort of core planning group now at last Thursday, for the high schools thing, CT.
Yeah.
So that all of those committees have at least one board representative on them. That's just big picture stuff.
Yeah.
Then we get into user groups with actual users, teachers, etc. Once construction starts, that's something to be determined yet. In the past, Howard attended all of that
I
with
know.
me. I mean, they're weekly meetings.
Yeah.
I don't know when they'll be yet. They're typically in the morning, 9 o'clock. The last two have been on a Tuesday.
do you anticipate having community input on any of the user group?
Yep. So community members like Renee Heidenbach was on. Waters. Cool.
I think Tony Waters was on.
Yep.
He wasn't there though.
Got Klinger, stuff in there.
Alright.
So yeah.
And all the notes are posted online, are they not?
I don't think got them.
Not
I
yet,
haven't
but
seen
there
them
is
yet
like a comprehensive.
from Thursday. Not yet.
No.
There will be. But yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, I certainly would welcome just one board member if they're available to sit in on those meetings and can give, if they want. I mean, otherwise I can give.
I was more
reports as
interested
well.
in a future agenda. I'm doing what you're just doing now.
Okay.
Tell what the plan is.
Update.
If there are opportunities for us to sit in where our interest lies.
Are you on one?
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
I put you down for all of them.
Okay, there we go.
I think you missed that meeting.
Yeah, probably.
I won't be going on Thursday. Just a field trip to Kalahari. Chaperoning if we don't get back to
For the
it.
4K or for
The middle school band.
no, but for the,
Well, for the 4K planning, yeah, but I'll miss the first one.
The Thursdays don't work for me on the agenda that they sent out for the high school CTE, so I'm not able to. I
I've been there.
requested.
What time is that meeting?
it's a
That was 7.
7 AM or PM?
PM.
Probably evening.
Yeah.
All every Thursday or
I don't know,
Every
6:30 to 8 or something like that.
that may be something.
Every other
And
Thursday.
the one
I
for
have the
4K
activities
is
core
5:30.
planning at 7:30.
6 to 8 for high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elementary is 5:30 to 7, activities 7:30 to.
And that's at the high school, right?
The activities, yes. Yeah, maybe we should update that. If you think of make a note to update that the high school large construction room for both high school and activities. Elementary room, maybe Kelly just put a library. Thank you. So something like construction committee reports or something. Report. Okay,
So just updating whoever is attending the meeting.
Me, yeah.
Summarize.
You guys want to, yeah. Yeah, once construction starts, we'll definitely have a running agenda item of updates.
But that's been 24 months, right? Over 24.
Yeah, actually, a year from now. But I mean, once design starts even, starting.
Thank you.
What projects are happening this summer? Isn't there some?
Nothing requires design, so
Yeah.
like potential generator, HVAC, technology, we're looking at some of that.
The cell service, but they said they had to get some of the planning done first, but they would have adequate coverage. That
For
was
cell?
something- Yeah, because we had talked about better cell coverage and they said they'd have to get the footprint laid out to ensure that they had it adequate for the campus. Was what they had discussed in the last meeting.
Okay.
So I asked about that one, because it doesn't seem like it would need as much planning.
Right, just, yeah, a booster.
Possible future agenda items, superintendent review, and then last year we had talked about setting goals prior to everybody setting goals with the administrative retreat. So we talked about setting the goals prior to that. So I don't know the date of that. the administrative retreat, so we had talked about setting goals prior to that, so, I'm assuming that would be next meeting then, ish.
Yeah, so you just said that.
Yeah, really. It goes fast.
Cause you do it right after school.
22nd, 20th to the 22nd is their retreat.
June.
Anything else? Okay, moving on to other. The other. Okay. Important upcoming dates, May 27th is the SCC graduation ceremony at 7 p.m. Thomas Sound Gymnasium. June 3rd is the last day of school. June 15th is the school board meeting at 7 p.m. in the SCC district office. 15 Davis Street in Hammond.
Who's doing the graduation here? You?
David and Dave.
David, Dave.
Dates are dates.
The dates.
The days. Sounds like a radio show, David and David.
So, now we just roll call.
Yeah. Entertain a motion.
Entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Procedure question. I don't know the answer to this one. I tried to look it up. I've got to go to get written. So do I go in and then go, or does that make a difference?
Either way.
Well, if you gotta go now, I would go now before you go into closed
Before
session.
going to closed
Just
session.
Note at the minutes.
That's what I was,
Yeah. So
that's what I assumed when I read everything.
Meeting at whatever, 9:03, and then the motion going to close was at 9:00.
I move we go into closed session per statutes, in both reasons. Need a second.
Second.
And roll call vote.
Side left or right, go.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
You voting?
No.
You
let's
voting?
talk about-
In to go in closed session?
No, we talked about
Okay,
that.
all right.
Because it was
All right.
cleaner
That's fine.
that way, so it doesn't look,
That's fine.
I was just asking to shred some stuff. That was all. Sorry.
Okay, and then, yeah, there's no call for, that was it. So take a 5-minute break typically.
I did. I'd second. Break, you said?
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm sorry.
great. Yeah, great. And glazed over. Oh my God.
Yes.